I'm Christine. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So today I'm here to wrap up the 15 books that I've read so far for the month of December. Today is December 15th, so I'm filming this right in the middle of the month. This month has just been very busy and wild for me, just with like the chaos of like family things going on and planning for the holidays, and like my mind just like jumbled with 100 different things going on. Like I haven't really had a lot of focus for reading as much as I do. I mean, granted, I just said I read 15 books for the month, which is definitely a lot, but like for me personally, that's not a lot. So yeah, like it's just fine. Some days I'm not reading at all. Like some days it's just novellas. Like it is what it is. It is the end of the year. Like I'm reading and doing what I want. So my reading has also been kind of blah this month. Like I've had 2 5-star reads out of those 15. A lot of new releases I was really excited for. It didn't really work for me, which of course I will get into once I start the books. So yeah, hopefully the last half of the month, like I just focus more on books that I know are going to be hits for me, that I'm excited about. Like maybe I'll just do that. And as always, if you ever want more of my thoughts, my full reviews on any of the books I talk about in any of my videos, or the books I talk about here today, I do review every book that I read, and you can always get to my Goodreads, which is where my reviews are posted, from the description of this video. I have a link to that. So without further ado, we'll jump into the 15 books I have to talk about today. So first up is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was actually one of my 5-star reads for the month. I love this book so much. I've read a handful of books by this author before in the past, and they've always really worked for me, and this is definitely one of my favorites. This is basically a Carrie-inspired retelling or reimagining of sorts, with racism at the center of the story. So this story is told through flashbacks of 2014 when the crime and like event happened, and then a current day podcast is doing kind of like a true crime look at the story and talking about it. So in this one, the main character is Maddie, and she's a biracial high school student in Georgia, and like even though her story is taking place in 2014, like it feels like that town is stuck 60 years in the past. So instead of the classic Carrie, like how her mom was that overbearing person, like in this, it's actually Maddie's father. He is a white man. He has raised her as white passing, and he has just like filled her head with like 1950s ideals and nonsense. She has just been sheltered and abused her whole life, like at home with her father, like verbally abuses her, like physically, like with an iron and stuff, like he has burnt her before. And then she's been bullied by her whole community as well. And then of course, like with her classmates. So once they realize that Maddie is actually biracial, which they learn like when she's in high school, is when the bullying definitely kicks up a notch. So this was just a fantastic story. I was really engrossed with the story the entire time through. Like I actually like this better than Carrie, the original like story that it's based off of. The way racism was woven throughout the story just worked really well. And so yeah, I gave this one 5 stars. Next, I read Snowden with a Player. This is a holiday novella with like a new adult sports college romance Snowden situation. So this one was just okay. I gave it 3 stars. I had actually read a book by this author in the past, like another one of her new adult college sports, like opposites attract romance in the past, and I had given that one 3 stars as well. I was hoping, since this was a holiday one, that I'd like it a little bit more, but I didn't really. I kind of feel the same about this author's writing, and so she's probably not one I'm going to pick up again in the future. So this is the first book in like her little like holiday novella series that she put out this year. It follows 2 twin sisters, so like each sister gets her book. So in this one, the heroine and her twin sister, they end up going to their family's cabin, like on the Christmas holiday away from school. And then their brother is there as well with some of his friends. And so the heroine and her crush, who is her brother's best friend, actually end up getting snowed in together. And it is their little romance. This one was just okay, mostly forgettable to me. Like I felt like I was just dropped into the story with like these characters, and I didn't really get to know them or like care about them. So I wasn't really invested in their romance once it got to that. The hero though, like he has lost his mom in the past, and so he feels really connected to the heroine's family, and like he gifts her some of the jewelry from his late mom as well, so like that was sweet to see. But otherwise, like it was okay, 3 stars. Next, I read Astrid Parker Doesn't Fall. This is the 2nd book in the Bright Falls series from Ashley Herring Blake. So this is following Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which I loved, was one of my favorites. I gave it 5 stars. This one, sadly though, I gave it 3 stars. So in this book, we follow Astrid, who was Delilah's stepsister in Delilah Green Doesn't Care. So like we've already met Astrid. We know she left her fiance in the previous book, and so like this jumps into her after that. So Astrid is an interior designer, and she's always just kind of lived up to her mother's like high expectations of how she should be, how she should act, like all of those things. She ends up getting this amazing job offer to renovate this like historic manor turned into an inn. Like it's all going to be done on this like HGTV home design, like television series show renovation thing. So this one, just like Delilah Green, this is a sapphic romance. And so Astrid ends up meeting Jordan, who is the granddaughter of the inn's owner. Jordan has like a lot of connections to the inn, and like she really wants to preserve her family's history. Like that's the only place she ever felt safe and comfortable and happy growing up. Jordan is a carpenter as well, and so like she has her own ideas of what she wants to do with the inn. This one just had a lot going on in the story, and sadly I was never invested in Astrid or Jordan really. Astrid of course has the entire thing going on with her mom and kind of realizing that she kind of wants to do what she wants. She doesn't have to live up to these like perfect ideals that her mom has set for her, and like she isn't happy with what she's doing and she kind of wants to do something else. Both characters in this have a lot of insecurities and kind of struggles that they have to deal with on their own. I used to love like design renovation type shows back in the day, but like this one was just not interesting to me. Like it was kind of boring and bland, like I didn't care. Jordan has some drama in here as well with kind of like her ex-wife situation. Astrid of course has everything going on with her mom, and then Astrid is kind of discovering her own sexuality as well, because like Jordan is the first woman that Astrid has been interested in. So there's just a lot going on in this one. We do see all the characters from the previous book, so Delilah and Claire, and then of course we see Iris, who is getting the next book. So yeah, this was okay, and I gave it 3 stars. Next I read the newest book from Elizabeth O'Rourke, and this is The Devil Gets His Due. This is the 4th book in her Devil's standalone series, and this book I really hated. I gave it 2 stars, which makes me sad because this and the last book in the series, I think I gave it 2 stars as well. Have not enjoyed them, but I really love Elizabeth O'Rourke's writing in other books. Like I have some favorites from her. I did an entire video of reading like all of the books in her backlist and talking about them, which I can link in the description of this video if you want to find a better book than this one to read. This one is a surprise pregnancy and drunken Vegas wedding setup. We already knew this from the blurbs that she put out and the synopsis of the book, so like that's not why I didn't like it. Like I'm here for those tropes. They kind of work for me sometimes. So the hero and the heroine of this one, they actually meet at a party because her best friend and his brother are engaged. They're the couple of the previous book. They end up having a drunken night after that little party incident, and they end up waking up in Vegas and they're married. So they wake up the next morning and they realize they're married, but they live 3,000 miles apart on opposite ends of the country, and so they both end up going their own separate ways afterwards. So the hero is like a multimillionaire and the heroine is a doctor. I think she's like a dermatologist. And then of course 4 months later the heroine realizes that she's pregnant, and so the story kind of kicks off from there. The hero finds out, not from her because she doesn't tell him, so he kind of moves in with her and wants to take care of her and wants to kind of prove that they should be together. The hero is just a lot. He's very rude. Like I don't like him. He's the type of alpha that I do not like. This one was a slow burn with them not getting together until 70% of the story, which I thought was a bit too much for their setup. And then the heroine's character was just way too much for me. She was so immature. She was flippant and flighty, and she just acted like an irresponsible teenager. Like, I could not believe this woman was in her 20s, that she was a doctor. Like, didn't see it. Like her actions and choices and like things that she'd say like just really made me shake my head and cringe. Actually, there was moments from both the hero and the heroine in the story that just gave me the ick, and like I did not like the way that the hero talks about the way that other women dress, how the heroine dresses. Like it was just not it. Like I just couldn't stand the heroine. She acts like a teenager. She was complaining about having to like eat better for the baby and like eat vegetables because she doesn't like veggies. There's also a scene where they're eating at a restaurant together, and like one of the staff in the kitchen actually goes into early labor, and so everybody in there is like calling for a doctor, and the hero is like hello, like why aren't you raising your hand? You're a doctor. And she's like, ugh, like I don't want to be inconvenienced by that. Like I'm trying to eat my chicken while it's hot. Like she was not willing to help out like people who actually needed help. And, like it wasn't a joke. Like it was a serious thing. It was mentioned multiple times that she just wanted to eat her chicken while it's hot. Like she hates doing this. Like she just acted like a child. I will say the audio was nice to have. Like it released the same day that the book came out, so that was nice, which I am super thankful that my friend Monica, she actually gifted me the audio, which was so sweet of her. She had some issues with the book as well. Like we talked about it beforehand, so I'm totally not bashing a book that she gifted me and loved. Yeah, I gave this book 2 stars. Do not recommend. Next, I just needed something like quick and fun, and so I jumped into some little holiday novellas. Next 2 recommendations I got from my friend Tiffany from Tiff Talks Pages. First up is Sugar Cookies and the Single Dad. So this novella is part of like a multi-author holiday novella series on Kindle Unlimited. They all have plus-size heroines. And in this one, we get a single dad hero and then lots of little cute holiday baking. And this one, the hero is the single dad to a 7-year-old daughter. And at the beginning of the story, they're at like her holiday recital at school. So when they're at this event is when he finds out that his daughter signed them up to make holiday homemade cookies for the school bake sale. This is when his daughter does like a little bit of matchmaking on her own, because she's like, oh dad, like you know nothing about baking, but like my teacher over here, like she knows about baking, she could probably help. The heroine is her teacher and she is like new in town. She is a new teacher, and so she comes over to the house and they start baking together, which of course it turns into just the hero and the heroine there. Like this one moves super fast. It takes place over just that one day. Like they spend the night together, and then the next morning they're already saying like I love you. Like it jumps really fast. Very insta love, but like for what it was cute and fun, and so that's why I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read the next book in the little holiday novella series, and this one is Shortbread and the Scotsman. This one I liked a little bit more, and I gave it 3.5 stars. This one of course has a curvy heroine again, and this one the hero's family owns a bakery, and it is a second chance romance. So the hero and the heroine, they shared a kiss in the past, class, and like she was the lady of the lock for like the Highland games in their town, and then he was the winner, and so she had to give him a kiss, and like both of them were kind of crushing on each other, and they have like some mutual pining going on. But then the hero kind of misunderstood like something that he saw her do right after the kiss, and so he kind of left and has kind of treated her badly ever since, or kind of like ignored her. But now they get a second chance when they're forced to work together at his family's little bakery during their town's like Christmas festival. This one was just short and cute too. I liked the Highlands setting. I love the second chance. I love that like forced proximity of them working together, and of course that mutual pining. Again, it was very insta love and very short. Like I wanted a bit more, but for what it was good. There's like little cute recipes in this as well, which is super fun. So next I read Garnish with a Candy Cane by Nikki Belair. And I heard about this, I think somebody recommended it on one of my videos, and it is a like mafia-esque holiday novella, so I decided to try it out. But sadly, it didn't work for me. I gave it 2.5 stars. In this one, the hero is like a mob boss, and his name is Duke. And the heroine is brought into his office one night at the club that he like owns and works at. And she is like super drunk, but he is instantly like into her, wants to take care of her. Like he makes her sleep at his office to make sure that she's going to be all right the next morning. So the next day when she wakes up, the hero is like ready to protect her, like lay the world at her feet, like have her move in with him. Like it moves super duper fast. Like he wants her to quit her job. He wants her to move in. He wants her grandma to move in, who like lives in an assisted living home. He's like, nope, grandma and you are like coming to my house. So this is very insta love with very little buildup, which I definitely wanted more from. I did think it was fun that the hero starts calling the heroine Duchess, because like during her drunken night when she finds out that his name is Duke, she's like, oh, like if we ever got married, like I'd be your Duchess. So like that was kind of cute that he called her Duchess the rest of the story. But yeah, this is on Kindle Unlimited. It's super short, but I gave it 2 stars. Next, I read Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh, and this one I gave 4 stars to. This one was just a super cute and fun friends to lovers holiday romance. And this, the hero and the heroine have been friends for years, I think like 8+ years. And like through the story, we're told of different moments that they have traveled together. So they both live in Chicago, but they're from Ireland. So we get to see them like every Christmas, every holiday season, like they end up traveling back with one another. And so we get to see like each year as that goes. I loved seeing their different flights over the years and kind of all of these like missed opportunities. Like she's with a guy now, it's never the right time situation. There was pining, which of course I always love to see in friends to lovers. This was just great. I listened to the audio, and yeah, 4 stars. So next up I read Anastasia by Sophie Lark, and first off I will say I was super excited for this book. I was highly anticipating it. I thought it would be like a 5-star read for me for sure. I've loved Sophie's Mafia books this year. Like I loved binging the Brutal Birthright series and the Kingmaker series. Like I have 5 stars in some of those. I had high hopes for this book. Like I like historical fiction, I like fantasy, I love magic. Like I know a lot about the Romanov like family history and like Russian history. Like I was very excited for this book. But sadly this book like didn't do anything for me, and I ended up giving it 2 stars, which I have talked to multiple friends about this book now. Some who have kind of felt the same as me, or kind of felt in the middle, or some who have really loved it. Like I've talked to an array of friends who have felt different ways about this book. So I'm definitely not trying to bash on it or bash on people who love it, but like nothing in this book worked for me personally. I do think it was kind of rough for being her first fantasy and like taking on this entire like actual historical family. As soon as I started reading it, I could tell, okay, this is not going to be 5 stars, but like maybe it will be 4 stars for me. But like I was just so bored. The historical fiction, like I get she had to build this up because she's talking about like actual people and like the entire like Russian history. But I just felt it like very dry, very boring. The sentences were just like not it for me. That said, I do think her research was really well, because I could tell from some of the like character and the family interactions that she definitely did her research, because it read like things that I have heard and read about the family before, like some of their interactions. Like it definitely seemed true to who they were, so her research was good with that. But my problem was a lot of the focus and the time of the story was dealt on that like historical fiction, where I wanted more on the characters, I wanted more on the magic, I wanted more on the fantasy, and like I really didn't feel like we got that. This book, we do start off with Anastasia when she was just 11 years old, and so we get her POV, and then eventually we get the hero's POV as well, which they meet when they're children. She's 11, he's 14, and like over the book their ages go up. So like then later on Anastasia's 14, and then later on she's 16, which she stays 16 until about like 65 to 70% of the book. And then the last bit of the book is when we finally see her being like 18 and 19 when they actually get together. So like I mentioned, the fantasy and the magic aspect just didn't work for me at all. And so then the romance, like let's see where the romance is. And so I totally get that there wasn't going to be a romance between them when they were teenagers, like underage teenagers, I should say. Which is fine. I didn't need that. I wasn't expecting it to be super smutty. I was fine with that. Like I don't want romance when they're obviously underage. But I felt like their chemistry definitely missed out on. Like they are barely together on page. A lot of times like he is away from her. They do write letters, but like Like we don't get to see a lot of like what's being said in the letters. I think it would have been cool if like they had a way to communicate maybe like magically, like I would have believed their connection a little bit better. But somehow like into the story, all of a sudden they're like best friends, and I was just like, when did this happen? How did this happen? Like they're never on page. There are some moments where it's talked about and kind of glossed over from the hero's POV of like events and things that happened in the past, like, oh, we were together for the holidays, or we were together doing this, but like we never see it on page. And so I think that definitely affected my feelings and like connection to the couple. So like once we actually do get them older and aged up and they're like getting to the romantic times, like I just didn't feel it. I didn't believe it. Like it did nothing for me. That said, I really loved the art in this. Like it is amazing. There are over 120 like original images of art throughout the book, like within each chapter, at the beginning, at the end, sometimes throughout the chapters there are scenes of art. If you're gonna read this book on ebook, definitely pick it up on your iPad, or like what I did, I just like had it on my app, like Kindle app on my phone, and read it, because then the art will be in color. Because otherwise if you read it on your Kindle, like the art, and even in the paperback print version, it's gonna be like black and white art, which the art is beautiful, so like seeing it in color is definitely everything. And I did love Artemis as well, which if you've read the story, then you know who Artemis is. This story, by the way, is not high fantasy. Like it is just our world, but with magic in it, and kind of like an alternate universe or ending for Anastasia. And then her next series I know is supposed to be like a vampire trilogy that's kind of based in the same like our world, but with magic. And I think that could actually still be interesting. I really love vampires, and I think that it not being like historical families and like that whole history that she had put in with this book, I think that one could actually work better. So like, I don't know, I'm kind of curious about that one, but at the same time, I might just stick to her mafias because I know those work for me. That said, I'm totally glad that other people love this book and it's like one of their favorites of the year. Like I have talked to plenty of friends who love this book, and that's totally fine. Like I'm not hating on them for loving it. I just know that it didn't work for me, and like that's fine. We can have our difference of opinions. Like it is okay. But yeah, that's why I gave this one 2 stars. So listen, it feels like I'm just hating on a new releases this month, but another one that I did not enjoy was Tangled and Tinsel by Trilini Pucci. So this one I also gave 2 stars to. So in the past, I have read something from this author before, and like I thought it was okay, but like for a holiday reverse harem, like why choose romance? Like I was really excited for this one. So in this one, the heroine is an interior designer, and she has been tasked or hired to like decorate this cabin for some of her clients. So she's supposed to be decorating for this like holiday party, but a snowstorm ends up coming through, and so she ends up getting locked in the cabin with her and the 4 heroes. And this one just jumps right into it, right into the action, and like I just thought it was okay. The steam was honestly kind of a miss for me. I didn't like the humor at all. Like I could not stand it. I thought the heroine's relationship with her sister, who like she shares every little detail of like her sex life, was kind of strange and odd. Like to each their own, but that was kind of a strange relationship to me. Like if her sister was her best friend instead, I would have believed their interactions a little bit more, but like I don't know, I just kind of wanted a little bit more with like the relationships or the connections with the heroes, because otherwise all 4 of these heroes, like they were all the same to me. Like I didn't feel connected to any of them. Like I don't know, like for what it was, being short, being a reverse harem holiday romance, I guess it delivered, but not a favorite for me. 2 stars. So next I read Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison, and this is the 3rd book in her Love Light series, and this one I gave 5 stars. This is my second 5-star of the month. And I love this book so much. The hero in this one is a cinnamon roll hero, which usually I don't gravitate towards cinnamon roll heroes, but like when I do, they're these type of heroes who are just like so good and so perfect. Like seriously, this whole series has been such a fun time. Each book has gotten better, like book 2 and now book 3, this one, are my favorites in the series. So in this one, the heroine is one of the co-owners of the Lovelight Farms with the previous 2 people in the series, and she runs the bakery on the farm. So one day she's out at a restaurant, she's at a bar, and she's like on a date, and it's gone horribly. Like her date left her. So then the hero Caleb actually shows up. He's at the restaurant with his family, like celebrating a birthday, but he knows the heroine because he's like a regular at the bakery, and he has actually been pining after her as well. He goes over to her, finds out she got left behind, and so he offers her a ride back to town. So on their ride back, they both start sharing kind of their like terrible luck with dating, the heroine's bad luck, and then the hero shares as well that like all of his dates are always dumping him after the 4th date. Like he's just the nice guy, and like he can't get a win. So he decides to jokingly, or like not so jokingly, because he has been pining after her, but he tells the heroine like, hey, you and I should date, like for a social experiment, you know, just to like feel it out, see what we're doing right, see what we're doing wrong, and like get better at dating. So I just adored the hero. He is a substitute teacher. He is like the swooniest cinnamon roll hero ever. This one is also really fun too, because it's actually a sunshine romance where they're both romantics. Like they both want to take care of one another. The hero in this, like he is delicious. Like he is willing to work for it and please the heroine. Like whatever he can do, he wants to do it. I loved it. I loved how much she supports her and her bakery, like just chef's kiss, 5 stars. Next, I read Hester, and this was actually one of my October book of the month book picks. And this one I really enjoyed. So I've really been enjoying lately, like these kind of like reimagined takes on classic tales. So this is of course kind of based off of the Scarlet Letter and like the woman who maybe could have inspired it, obviously like fictionalized. So in this story, it starts off in Scotland, and the heroine in this one is named Isabel, and she has always kind of had this ability when she was younger, which they don't know what it was back then, but basically like where she can see colors, and she sees colors for like words and numbers and letters. So since of course that wasn't like widely known or researched back then, like her entire like family have kind of had this like phenomenon around them and the women in the family. But then when she turns 18, she actually ends up marrying. So she ends up marrying this like 30-year-old apothecary owner in their town, and like he's been widowed, and so he takes her in, and like she wants to become a seamstress. Like she's really good at sewing and embroidery and like all of that needlework. So her husband actually ends up getting into a little bit of trouble in Scotland, and so they end up taking off to Salem. So once there, her husband actually ends up taking off on a boat for work, and so the heroine's just kind of on her own there and kind of has to take care of herself. She ends up meeting Nathaniel Hawthorne, who is in town writing books, which of course is the author of The Scarlet Letter. I just really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed seeing the different times that are told throughout the story. I liked seeing little glimpses of like witch hunts and the way that women were treated back then. I really loved seeing the way that Isabel stands up for herself and kind of has to take care of herself, and like just kind of that like woman in power situation. The strength of her and her family like throughout the years was just done so well, and so yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I give it 4 stars. Next, I read The Holidays by Brittany C. Cherry, and I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. This is her new holiday romance, which I loved it. This one just put a smile on my face the whole time. It made me feel for them, like during their tough times, and I just really loved the characters so much. So this one starts off with the heroine Holly, and it is Christmas Eve, and she is due to get married when instead her wedding day gets ruined in the worst way possible. We jump to 10 months later. Holly is a romance writer, and she's kind of just had like writer's block. She hasn't been able to write ever since she got dumped on her wedding day, and she's also been lately wanting to put herself back out there kind of on the dating market because her mom's definitely giving her some grief, like in a lovingly way, that the holidays are coming up, and like she knows she doesn't want her to feel alone, like especially during this 1-year anniversary of like what should have been her wedding day. So Holly's like, it's fine, like I have the perfect date, I'm bringing somebody home for Christmas. Holly decides to get on some dating apps, and she starts going on all these first dates. So around at the same time at her apartment building, she actually ends up running into the hero, who is Kai, and he owns a local new restaurant that is opening up. And so when they bump into one another, Holly was like reading a book, not paying attention. So Kai is like super annoyed because she bumped into him, like knocked over his whole bag of like liquor that he was taking it to his restaurant, like his inventory. And so he's just like, ugh, like watch what you're doing, stop having your head stuck in a book. So then we cut to a couple weeks later, and Holly starts taking her dates to this local restaurant that she's like, this restaurant is like right down at the street from my apartment, like this is gonna be my Cheers, where like everybody knows my name, like it's perfect location. But of course that is actually the hero's a new restaurant and bar that he just opened up. So he starts seeing her like night after night, bringing in all of these first dates, and he's noticing like none of these are second dates, like it's always a new guy with her. Sees how like none of these guys are right for Holly, and so he decides to step in and tells her he's gonna be her dating coach. So this had a very like he's just not that into you movie vibe, with like the restaurant bar guy like trying to become her dating coach. Of course this leads to Kai and Holly becoming friends, and I loved seeing it, like all the time they spend together. Kai is definitely more gruff, and I loved seeing the mix with him with Holly, of her just like being the sunshine to him and kind of making him smile, making him open up. These two really are like super sweet and vulnerable together. I loved seeing Holly's relationship with Kai's younger brother, who is in high school but lives with Kai. It's just had so many fun and swoony moments. I love their time together. I love that she has a cat named Grandma. Their banter, like he calls her Holly Jolly, like it is just such a fun time. So it was a little bit slower in the beginning, but it sold me in the middle for sure. And then at the end there is like a little bit of drama, some things going on with like her brother and this other man situation, which I could have done without, but like it is what it is. I love the rest of this book so much. I loved Kai and Holly. So yeah, I gave this one 4.5 stars. Next, I read Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Leese, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This one is the newest release from Chloe Leese and her first traditionally published book. I have kind of had some hits and misses in the past with some of her indie releases. So like I've read 2 of the Bergman brothers books, did not enjoy the ones I read, but then I really loved the Mistletoe Motive, like her indie holiday romance book that came out last year. Like that one I gave 5 stars to. I decided to try this one out. I grabbed the audio from my library, but yeah, it was just kind of a miss for me. Like it was okay. There was moments in here I liked, but like nothing really stood out. That's not one I'd remember. Like nothing was necessarily bad with it. It just was like kind of meh. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. So in this one, the hero and the heroine, they both kind of feel awkward during social situations. The hero is a pediatrician and he has anxiety, and the heroine is like an erotic artist and she is autistic. So they end up meeting because his friend and roommate ends up getting engaged to her twin sister who she lives with. So they meet at a party, they get stuck in a closet together, like they share an almost kiss. And so when the rest of their friends and her twin sister finds them, like they decide to kind of meddle and kind of pair them up together. So her twin sister ends up meddling, trying to matchmake them. She ends up sharing like their middle names with one another and is like, just text first, so like they don't know who they're talking to at first. So they end up meeting at like their first date, which they're gonna play chess together, and that's when they see one another in person and realize who they've been talking to. And so they decide that they want to get back at their meddling friends and her sister. And so they're like, hey, this will get them. Like, we will fake date, get them all to be invested in a relationship, and then break their hearts by breaking up. So I thought some moments in here were fun. There was definitely a lot of like quirky moments, which I don't think really work for me from this author's writing style. And then the entire like 3rd act conflict and the way that things went down at the end of the book at 90%, by the way, I was not a fan of. I did like in here though how the hero like goes out of his way to try to make the heroine comfortable. Like he knows that she doesn't like to eat vegetables because of the texture, so he ends up like pureeing all these like veggie soups for her, like super sweet moments. But like it was okay for me at the end of the day, not something I'll really remember. Gave it 3 stars. And then lastly, I just finished this one last night, which is The Proposal by Mary Baylog, and this is the first book in her Survivors Club series. This one I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars. So in this series, the characters in this like Survivors Club have formed this club of survivors. Like they have survived from war, they have like physical or mental wounds or traumas that they've been healing from, and so they've kind of formed this like club amongst themselves. So this one is a class difference romance as well. With the hero, he is kind of like a middle-class man who, once he went to war, he actually ended up coming back titled because of like some of the things that he did during the war, and now he's the guardian as well of his half-sister who lives with his stepmom. He kind of wants the best for his sister, and like she wants to get out in society, and so he's like, okay, well, like I need to get a wife who can like help me out with these situations. So he actually is trying to search for a wife who's like middle class and like his people instead of like a society lady. But of course, who does he meet but a society lady? So the heroine in this one, she is a lady and she has been widowed for 7 years, and she's on this walk when she actually ends up slipping on like the steep cliffs and twists her ankle. And so the hero is out there, and that's when they meet, and he takes her back, like carries her back to the house where he's like meeting with all of his like Survivors Club's friends. And so the doctor there is like, well, she needs to like convalesce here and like take it easy and like rest your leg for like a week. Like you need to stay here. So we get some of that like close proximity. They spend time together. They become friends. Like they share a kiss. They have some moments together. Like I was really loving the first half of this story. The middle, they kind of go their separate ways for a bit, and it kind of did drag for me in the middle. But then at the end again, it picked back up and I really enjoyed it. This was just a solid start to the series. It has that like slow burn. It has those like classic Mary Baylog things that she does, which is like the hero proposing multiple times to the heroine, her turning him down, and then like eventually they get together. We do get introductions briefly to like all the rest of the characters that I'm sure we're going to see in the series. And so yeah, I'm super excited to continue on, and I gave it 4 stars. So those are the 15 books that I've read for the first half of December. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of the ones that I've read, or maybe what some of your favorites for December have been so far. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.